Like I say, actually, you're mistaken, punk. See, as managing manager of general, excuse me.
We've been away for a while and now we're back. It almost sounds like WWE have influenced us in the sense of sometimes they care, sometimes they don't.
I don't care.
About them.
About this.
How dare you? As a heel turn within like less than 30 seconds of actually pressing record. This is Beyond the Beermat episode number 7, and I would say that is a historically significant number in wrestling history, if only to make people look up old gold dusts in WCW Great Gimmick.
Oh, pedo dust. Did it tie in with the film 7? Was it at the same time?
No, I mean, like, do you mean was it out at the same time?
Yeah,
I don't believe so.
because he was a sinner, and the film 7 was about the sins.
Oh man, he's just absolutely dropping some knowledge bombs both on wrestling and films. The only problem with that is that the level of quality between the film 7, versus the level of quality, the wrestler 7, or the gimmick 7, as it were, severely sort of up in the air, as one was good, one was bad. I'll let you decide which was which. One won an Oscar, one
Was a pedo.
I was going to say renounced his gimmick on live TV after day 1. But
Oh yeah, that was good. After all that money being spent on him, like flying or levitating to the ring, only for him to say, "What's
No,
this
you're
all about?"
right. Yeah, this is bullshit.
Yeah. See you later, everyone.
Generally speaking, like that has been sort of held as like a bullshit Russo thing of like, we're going to give you this, no we're not, we're going to just pull it away. I don't even know if that's like, obviously that's not what they were going for, that's just bullshit all round.
They spent a lot of money on like all his promos and all sorts. Not a lot of money, it was just pick a random child off the streets, it doesn't matter who, stick him in Russo's bedroom and have old pedo gold dust looking through the window. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I know, but like in terms of like actually pulling the plug on it, is it a case of like, whenever you're talking about WCW specifically, that sort of area, you don't know, it all feels like a bit sort of, yeah, we're trying to get eyes on the product, but at the same time we don't care how much systematic, fundamental damage we're doing to the product by doing this.
Did he even have a match at 7? He didn't?
He might have.
Did he? But then he was out the door straight away anyway, so it must have been a shoot. Why would you pay someone money to shoot a load of promos, to do all these vignettes and that, only for him to not wrestle anyway and then be gone?
I just think that, like, if you're paying someone that much money, I've seen wrestlers over the years have quite, shall we say, they've not had their fair share in terms of like the gimmicks been shit, or basically certain people have had to deal with a lot of bullshit, and Bull Buchanan might be top of that list.
Oh, B squared.
Yeah. Or Right to Sensible Buchanan. Did he have a name?
No, it was still Bull Buchanan.
Oh, was it just Bull Buchanan?
Yeah, he didn't have much really. He was one of the weaker members of Right to Sensible.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not saying he had a lot, but like he wasn't given a lot to deal with.
Yeah, but he was part of an important stable. They were good. That was a dig at the old American Parents Against Wrestling.
Oh no, that's great.
That was quality.
When Vince McMahon gets stubborn and wanky, like sometimes I'd say 90% of the time, what we see on TV is garbage. But every now and then, like a bright spark will come through. But the point I'm trying to make is that like when
that was Attitude Era anyway.
Oh, okay. So
nearer the end though, wasn't it? But there's still a good part of the Attitude Era, your favourite era of wrestling.
Well, again, I've said this before. Yeah, he just gave me the fucking middle finger, both literally and in terms of what you're saying to me, sort of orally. You orally gave me the middle finger?
Sure.
Is that a thing?
OR orally or AU orally?
Both, because you spoke and I heard it.
Alright, wicked.
Yeah.
The best kind of oral.
Yeah. You didn't even let that settle. You just said it. But no, the point I was trying to make is that like certain people get shit, and actually the good example would be like Kane and Daniel Bryan in terms of like what you can do versus what you're given. But like the 7 thing is like, yes, certain wrestlers get a lot of shit, but do you really decide that you're going to go on TV on day number 1 and do that? I don't think that like. We would know by now if he's kicked off that much, if you're that bothered that you're going to go on,
just don't show up.
Yeah.
Don't go out. Don't white yourself up.
Which is impressive for a white guy.
Yeah, that's not all right to do. No whiting up.
Is it not?
Yeah, it's fine. For this instance, that's the one instance it's all right to white yourself up.
I'll just move on from... There's an easy sort of segue there from him doing that to Roddy Piper, but I'll just leave that where it is.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, shall we start this cacophony of wrestling nonsense? Do your introduction.
The introduction's been...
Oh, is it? Okay.
Okay. Then in that regard, let me just rewind that. This is Beyond the Beermat. My name is Stuart Quigley. Alongside me is...
Still Matt. All right, it's not Billy this time.
No, it isn't. I think people have well established that by now. But also as well, you decided, perhaps because the beer isn't quite as flowing as last time, you're not quite as whoop whoop and blap blap skeet skeet as you were before.
We've already talked about cultural appropriation by whiting ourselves up. There'll be no ebonics in this episode.
There might.
Yo.
Stick it on. You're obsessed with chicken squares. This come from?
I don't know.
It's I'm a big fan of it. I imagine people listening may sort of grow tiresome of it. It sounds very much like wrestling. It's good to start with, but then it just goes gradually downhill. Seeing as we haven't actually been on the airwaves, which is a radio reference from those of you that are still alive from 1998, I don't know. Attitude Era is brilliant, so obviously everyone listening to this must get that reference. I feel like I'm complaining about two separate things there, but why not? What we're going to do then is, seeing as we've not been around for a while, we're going to try and sort of touch the cornerstone, like Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho touching each other in that picture. Not in real life touching each other. I'm not referring or insinuating anything, but in that sort of, what's the word, mocking. No, it wasn't a mocking, it was a sort of representation of the picture of like the creation of man.
Yeah.
That sort of touching, we'll try and touch on things that are actually happening now and try and make ourselves feel a lot more relevant than we actually are.
So let's talk about moving on from a crap product, this podcast. Let's talk about someone realising they have a crap product. Stephanie McMahon on Undercover Boss USA. Did you ever watch Undercover Boss?
I love Undercover Boss. It's much like most reality TV programmes, it's the same programme every single time. But that last 10, 15 minutes where they reveal themselves, and first of all, you're doing the mime of like Superman, if Superman had giant tits.
Yeah, ripping open the shirt and jiggling them about.
Yeah, why not? First of all, the conceit of it is in the idea of like you wouldn't know that your main gaffer is just there in a false moustache and beard. I'm a little suspect about that. That being said, in terms of quality bullshit TV, I'm a big fan of whenever the English version's a bit shit, but like whenever
Back
Americans...
to the Floor. The Americans ripped off our product. It was Back to the Floor on BBC Two. It was brilliant. Send the boss downstairs, like working with all the jobbers on the shop floor. Because he didn't know who they were, because he was like the big director in that.
Yeah.
I can't see it working in America, and I can't see it working for WWE for the reasons you said. If you stick Stephanie McMahon in a wig and glasses, coincidentally, what her disguise is, she's tucked her hair up into a bun, put a white wig on, and some glasses.
Really, rather unintentionally, there was an episode of Undercover Boss USA that I watched recently where one of like the chief executives of the Utah Jazz was in and around, it's a really old one, the organisation and like the stadium and whatnot. And I'm thinking, okay, right, if you're the CEO and executive of like, I don't know, Cecil Shrimp Company, then maybe the fellas on the shop floor might not know who you are. But if you're a big company and you have a absolute undeniable face that no one will see, which is ironic, Stephanie McMahon having a face because she's a big heel.
Sure.
Wrestling terms. Yes. That's what we do this for.
Yes.
Who's not knowing that? The only weird thing is that I would pay good money if this program was like 60 minutes of everyone recognising her but her dad.
Maybe it would be good. Maybe it would be like the backstage stuff, the people we should be pointing the finger to. Let's stop blaming the talent for their shit booking of Sami Zayn. Yeah? Let's stop blaming Sami Zayn for losing all the time.
Who blames Sami Zayn for that? I thought we were all on the writer's back for that.
We are. Good. But at least we can see the writers now, yeah? When Stephanie McMahon goes up to him in her wig and glasses, like, "Hi, I'm Denise, I'm an intern," giving it all of that. All right, Denise, you're on the booking staff now.
You're all right, Denise, you sound an awful lot like Vince.
Make Sami Zayn win more often. So, I think it'll be good to see these people that we should be blaming, and I think, more importantly, for the sake of the internet, think about them juicy memes that we're going to get out of it.
Oh, you mean the fuel for the fire of like? I don't want to get too technical here, but are you aware of perpetual motion?
Yes.
Yes, the idea that like if you fuel something and it keeps going, right? I do believe that like if we get to a certain point in wrestling, the smart few, especially if Roman Reigns wins the title at a certain point, will fuel the energy for the world for many years to come. So I think this is part of that. Sort of keep fueling the fire of wrestling fans bullshitting. Then we can sort of maybe solve the energy crisis. So at least wrestling will be good for something. Do you know the best part of this? I just realised. I was just saying. I was like, the sheer negativity coming through this is a level that it's not even unprecedented, which again in itself is a negative comment because we've already been to this point of negativity before. But
are you going back to the well?
No, I'm not going back to the well.
It pays off going back to the well, Stu.
I just want to say, like, are you really that down on things at the moment?
No, but you got to think at the bigger picture. 1, we're not wrestlers. 2, we're never going to be in the limelight. 3, at least the negativity of the WWE product. I'm using my middle finger, by the way. It's count number 3.
Yeah, you went from thumb to index to middle.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm still giving you the finger at the moment. Number 3, it gives everyone the common ground. Think about this. Imagine you're a writer in WWE. You're a bit shit at your job anyway, and you know you're shit at the job. But by being shit at the job, you're providing so much joy to all these people through their hatred of the product. It brings them all together. Huh? It's not negative in the bigger scheme of things. We're happy because we're bitching about the product.
Though? Personally, I think that like you've seen this yourself, and one of my big sort of tent poles in wrestling fandom, as it is that good audiences make shit matches better.
Yes.
Right? That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
So what you need to do then in that regard is sort of make the audience feel as happy as possible, not make them feel as shit as possible. If we were happy, the matches would be better by default. So the more negativity going around, the worse everything seems.
I don't know. Maybe there's no answer, Stu. I don't know the right answer. You stumped me again. You stumped me 10 minutes into this. You stumped me. Yes, it's good because everyone bitches and comes together to bitch about the product, but we're ultimately shooting ourselves in the foot. We are cutting our noses off to spite our faces.
Which is ironic considering how many faces we spite.
There's one face I don't spite. Roman fucking Reigns. When he wins at SummerSlam. When he defeats the Beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar, it's going to be ace. Everyone's going to be fuming about it. Not this guy.
I don't actually think anyone's that arsed anymore. And a question I was going to ask you is that I think you and I actually agree on this in the sense of like we don't necessarily care too much about Brock Lesnar being off TV, and we don't necessarily care too much about the idea that like he has to be there every week or this or that. And there's been a big sort of uproar recently with Brock Lesnar's not going to be around and going to keep the title, and what do we do with this? And I'm just thinking, right, I just think this is sort of a backwards train of thought in the sense of instead of thinking what can we do to get the title off Brock Lesnar, I think we should be thinking how can we make everyone else seem as big of a deal as Brock Lesnar?
Actually, that ties into the next point about Raw. With old and SmackDown, coincidentally, with the number one contender on Raw, Roman Reigns. Oh yeah, ooh ah! I don't even know his chant thing anymore. Roman Reigns wasn't on Raw this week. And would you say Raw was particularly better this week without him there?
If I did, I'd be lying because I can't remember it genuinely.
Good. Neither can I, Stu, but don't worry. The same with SmackDown though. AJ Styles, the champ, wasn't there this week. And so instead they had Nakamura destroying Ty Dillinger over and over again, doing 10 counts to show that he can beat down a jobber for 10 seconds.
It's a decent gimmick in the sense of if you're going to do a last man standing match and you've got a guy in your roster that has a 10 count gimmick, that makes sense to do that. I'm not sure if it's the greatest way of carrying it off. I think WWE have this really weird habit of going, because everyone's so negative, I think it's a vicious circle. I don't know where it starts, I don't know where it ends. The technical term is Ouroboros. I've probably pronounced that wrong, but that's the snake that eats itself.
Urbus up in Herb.
I think he's from NXT or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the idea of like everyone's so negative, so that you take the person where the negativity is being sort of shown upon, whether it be we're doing it towards Roman Reigns or we're doing it towards AJ Styles, not because of him, but because of the segments he's being involved in, to try and preserve this sort of aura slightly. And yes, maybe for a one-off instance, we don't necessarily get pissy at the show, but taking Roman Reigns off the show or taking AJ Styles off the show doesn't make either of them seem better.
Well, no, they're different circumstances, aren't they?
They are hugely.
I'm talking from the internet perspective, because that's where I get the majority of my input from. The main fan base, who obviously hate Roman Reigns.
Yes.
Everyone fucking hates Roman Reigns. Not this guy. Everyone hates Roman Reigns.
I don't hate him, I just think that...
But they still bitched about Raw. Bitched about Raw. But at the end of their little messages on Facebook, they still said, but at least Roman Reigns wasn't there. But it's different for SmackDown, because people like AJ Styles, which I'm still not convinced by, but I should be.
Everything you're saying makes sense in terms of, like, if you're following the internet narrative, right? We're saying this about a certain person, not a wrestler, a person in Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
We're saying this about a character or a storyline in terms of AJ Styles, right? All it takes, and this goes back to what I said about, like, how do we elevate people to Brock Lesnar status rather than trying to devalue Brock Lesnar to everyone else, is explain why Roman Reigns isn't there. Explain why AJ Styles isn't there in a way that, like, the audience goes, okay, we had a good, whether it be a 6 out of 10 show or a 10 out of 10 show, just go, okay, at least it made sense.
Rather than they just don't show up for work.
Yeah.
Which is the whole sort of angle that Roman Reigns is going for at the moment.
That's
anyway.
always bothered me in since like the '98, the GM, the person in control era, as it were, in the sense of if you've got a figurehead who books a show, whether it be Raw, SmackDown, ECW, Velocity, Heat, Metal, Superstars, or Thunder,
all the shows.
Yeah, if that's their job, kayfabe. Why did we turn up to Raw not knowing what the card is?
Oh, what, and just creating it on the fly?
Yeah.
You come across Chad Gable, you're in a match tonight.
Yeah.
Yep.
If there is a guy whose job is that, we should turn up knowing what it is. And in the same way that, like, Roman Reigns wasn't there, there should be, common sense speaking, a section where you go, why isn't Roman Reigns there?
That's a good point, actually. So do you think, with Raw and SmackDown viewership not only dwindling from people that are watching at home, but actually people in attendance, do you think if you had these permanent GM roles that actually had a bit of legitimacy behind them, so you knew the card for the following week in advance, do you think that would cause more people to actually show up and or watch it? Because this week, good point here, this week on SmackDown, they said it was going to be Smojo versus Daniel Bryan. And then it turns into a triple threat with Big Kaz. Who's this big old bugger that wants to join in? Fucking jobber just because you're tall.
No, it's not that so much as the fact of, like, I don't care if you want to do that, but don't. And they do this all the time. It's a kick in the balls in the sense of, like, if you want to get the casual fans in, you'll be like, oh, Stone Cold Steve Austin's turning up in 2 weeks' time, or The Undertaker or Shawn Michaels is turning up. And you do that well in advance because you know that you'll get a little bump for people that used to watch that think it's good. But if you're doing Samoa Joe versus Daniel Bryan, the people you're doing it to are the people you know are going to watch week in, week out.
Yeah.
And if you
I don't think that's fair for old Daniel Bryan, because if you are saying that is, then you're going back to my point many podcasts ago where I said the value of Daniel Bryan has dipped, his star has fallen, and unfortunately he's not on the right track.
Have you heard about his contract stuff though?
What, the fact that he's going to knock it on the head soon and be back to ROH?
I don't buy that, but
I don't buy that, and I don't think he should either, because he's not going to have enough money if he does.
I disagree with that. The money on the indies is a lot bigger than it used to be. And I don't think... and also as well, if you're going to call one person out in the entire sort of pantheon of wrestling who gives a shit about money, with $1 Million Man probably being at the top of the peak, Daniel Bryan's probably at the bottom. Yeah, actual Steve Austin. We have the power to rebuild him. But, like, Daniel Bryan doesn't care about money that much. He's got...
No, I guess not. He's got Birdie, and he's got the other Bella, so... talking about Bella, Stu, that ties in nicely. John Cena, Nikki Bella. the ultimate work. You buying it?
It's funny you should say that because we spoke last time about the whole idea of the worked shoot and whether this would become a storyline. And in a weird way, I actually feel like I've been conned in the sense of like, this now feels like the whole thing was a work. At the time, it was very much like John Cena's sort of, yes, he's a company guy and all that, but like his private life is his private life. And if you've ever seen any of the clips that people love to put on the internet about him in Total Divas, it's always very distant, and that's partly why the Miz took the piss out of it in their feud. And so, here's a question I would ask. Did you ever really buy their relationship in the first place?
To some extent, I did.
Okay. It's neither here nor there, because we don't know them personally, so everything we're saying now is garbage in the sense of... You know them personally?
Yeah, me and John and Nick, we hang out now and again.
You, John and Nick?
Yeah. What's up? How's your sister? Is she alright? What's old Danny boy up to? Little fucker, isn't he? With his veganism and that.
How's the trademark?
Yeah.
That's a reference only people that know old John Cena's music will get.
That's not me. I bought it. I bought their relationship. That WrestleMania moment I bought into when he proposed. I cried, Stu. Again, he brought the wrestling community together for love or for hatred reasons.
Rise above hate, even.
Exactly. And it was good. And I sort of bought it, but at the same time, a lot of people on the internet, professional people on the internet, Meltzer.
He said that in such a weird sort of like, I'm going to curse you villain way. That's good.
He said there was like issues between him because, like you said, old Johnny C, he's a company man, and he's always going to be focused on the company, and that's going to be his number one baby. Poor old Nikki Bella and her unborn fetus. They're not going to.
We don't talk about Bellas and fetuses after that segment.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was rough.
Yeah.
That was rough. That was a shoot as well.
Jeez.
In other news, Stuart.
Yeah, I see you moved along from that very quickly.
Yeah. The unsafe moves in wrestling. I know I might have sent you a cheeky WhatsApp during the week, but did you see him? The fireman slam. When the man set himself on fire. That's fucking rough. That ain't cool.
The only way that would work is if like he'd been fireman slammed into some water.
Yeah, don't just go setting yourself on fire.
Use it as the psychology of the match.
Yeah, but it's not for an indie show. For an indie show where you've got 50 people that have shown up to sit in the front row.
Oh no, yeah, the whole
a bunch of bumpkins there.
I genuinely thought
the man's trying to actually kill himself.
I honestly thought we were like beyond this point now. You and I, without naming names, because we'll get to them, and I don't want to. We watch independent shows over here and close to us, right? And we've seen certain things.
Tipton.
I've never watched a show, and you'd go like, why would you do that? Because of like the circumstances. And it has always been the argument of like, okay, yes, I get the idea that like since 1998, you've got to try and like decapitate your opponent just to get a pop from the crowds, because you only have to look at the average ladder match now. Ladder matches don't get pops anymore because we've seen pretty much everything. And unless you go all in, and that's not a reference to Cody Rhodes' pay-per-view.
CM Punk, yeah.
It's not turning up.
You will.
You won't.
Did you see about his trial?
I've seen, yeah.
Under oath,
oh,
he had to say what CM stood for. Yes, the answer to the question we haven't asked for the last 3 years.
Was it Cookie Monster?
It wasn't.
Was it Cock Monster?
It wasn't Cock Monster either. Have you got anything else you want to say?
Was it Cock Master?
That's closer. It was Chick Magnet. Who would have thought?
Oh, I knew that
appeal by him.
In fairness, like in terms of the internet, there's been like about 50,000 different rumours as to what that was.
Well, you've just banged out 3, so yeah.
Yeah, 50,000. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
We don't want to list the rest of the 49,997 that I had in my back pocket, definitely, because that would be as tedious as an episode of Raw.
Cheeky monkey.
Could keep going if you want.
No, I'm done.
Going back to the moves and doing dangerous shit like that. The whole point of like you getting a pop from the crowd is that you can get a pop from the crowd without doing dangerous shit. I believe that.
As long as you can tell a decent story, though.
Yeah. And if you have to do that, I understand that there are certain styles and certain like hardcore wrestlers that go out there and they have. I'm not knocking it at all, but if you're saying to me, it's like, oh man, can I tell a decent story? No, I just set myself on fire. It just feels like you've got nothing else to give.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe you'll get noticed and other bookings for that. Congratulations, you'll get another whatever your purse is for the next year. But after that, then what?
Yeah, I can't see doing these dangerous things. The other move that I was going to mention is the power bomb from the top rope into the crowd, which I'm seeing much more after I saw the actual move, which is, let's be honest, I'm going to be really fucking brutal here. It was a stupid fucking thing to do. Yeah, it's going to get you noticed for the next however long the internet buzz will give you. So
But the
next
lawsuit
3,
lasts
4
longer
weeks,
than that.
Eh?
If you hurt someone legit,
Yeah,
the lawsuit
yeah.
lasts longer than that.
Exactly. But we're thinking we have to assume from a professional point of view that was a power bomb into a bunch of
Plants.
Yeah. It's not going to actually be into the crowd. It's going to be into a group of men that know how to catch someone when they fall from a centimetre off the ground or 8 foot off the ground.
So you got like 6 lads on row 1 and 2, 3 behind 3.
Yeah.
And then, if that's the case, then what's your thought about that? Because my thought on the old man on fire, not Denzel Washington, is
The bone collector.
that felt very homoerotic there, and I just didn't want to. I just left it in the air. But like, so when you do that stunt, okay, where do you go from there? What do you do? Blah blah blah. Right. With this one, if you know for a fact that those are plants, does it change your view of it, or does it make it any more interesting, or what?
No, because at the time, obviously not being present there, and I only saw it after there was a bit of internet buzz anyway.
But I'm just saying, like, if you're live at both events, right, your man sets himself on fire, maybe he gets himself over for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe. Into the crowd, supposing this is all safe and planned and not bullshit and not the worst case scenario which we're talking about, I actually think that gives a bit of buzz to the company.
It will do. Of course it will, because it's going to reflect well on the company. I think it works differently for different crowds, though. I think certainly for an indie promotion to be doing that, I know we've said about how much buzz it will give the company for a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe a bit longer.
Oh, there is a difference, though, between someone doing something to maybe get themselves over for a couple of weeks / months versus someone doing something or planning something. And again, this is all within the idea that, like, everyone involved is not an actual real fan. Because if they powerbomb them to real fans, then fuck them all, genuinely.
Yeah.
But like, if they're doing it as a company, then 4 or 5 months as a growth as a company is a lot different and a lot better ultimately than one guy doing that.
Well, what I was going to say is I think it just works differently on different stages anyway. If WWE do that, you can tell a plant a mile off because it's someone that's in the sort of development territories.
Yeah, it's usually someone with like
a lower mid-carder from NXT who's still an absolutely jacked bloke. Like 6 of them stood next to a few kids in a 40-year-old man that's looking after them.
He's got 5 times the muscle mass of everyone around
Exactly, so you can see it. But I don't, on an independent circuit where you're generally going to have smaller performers anyway, because they're not all trying to be the biggest man to appease old Vince McMahon by being just a massive lump of muscle. I think on an indie scene, you can do that. You can powerbomb someone, however much I hate to say, onto a group of people, and it doesn't matter if they're jacked up or just regular people like you and me or the listener, and you know how to catch someone safely. But either way, it was a stupid thing to do anyway, because all it took is one little slip, and you've ended up fucking breaking someone's neck on the guardrail. However flimsy the guardrail is for an independent show, there was still a guardrail at that show. A few months worth of exposure, and I'm being liberal by saying a few months.
Yeah.
I'll say a month of exposure for your independent company. We're probably going to find out that this was like PWG or like a smaller ROW.
It was actually an NXT house show. We just didn't know.
Exactly. But either way, if it was plants, if it was the actual fans, which is fucking stupid, no matter who it was onto.
If it's the fan, then that's a complete write-off.
But either way, for the couple of months exposure it gave you, to be risking your body and actually doing something as stupid as that, I think it's bloody ridiculous. I really do. As a fan of pro wrestling for absolutely donkey's years, I think it was a stupid thing to do.
Okay, then in that regard, because I'm not trying to play devil's advocate so much. I'm just trying to sort of gauge where you are in this. If you're saying that, and I'm just trying to find the barriers, the lines here, what's the difference between that and general sort of death matches on the indie circuit?
I haven't seen enough death matches anyway. I've seen.
But you know what I mean? That sort of hardcore style in a crowd.
No, deathmatch is different to hardcore style anyway. It's completely different because they're prepared to actually like hurt themselves for the sake of getting over. And
isn't that what this is though?
no, because I think a deathmatch involves one or two or multiple people.
Okay, so you're saying the variables are too high.
Yeah, I think by including outside people that aren't, one, the main focus of the match, or two, the bloody fans. If you're not part of that match, if I'm a man that's having someone powerbombed onto me from the top fucking rope that's, 5, 6, 7 foot away from me, if I'm not an important part of that match, surprisingly, when I've got, it was only a skinny man, so £150 worth of man falling on top of me, that's a hell of a gamble for me to take. And this will sound really controversial. Let's go back to everyone's favourite match of all time, Undertaker versus Mankind. Mankind coming off the Hell in a Cell, going through the table.
I think I know what you're going to say.
It was a bloody dangerous and stupid thing to do. If you'd
single-
involved anyone else in that, like you said earlier, when it comes to the whole who's liable for this, if he'd hit someone when he went down, Mankind this is, and he'd knock someone out, you're telling me, maybe if they're a real company man, JR, the King, if you'd hit a cameraman as you went down, or as he went through the table, a bit of the bloody, I know it's a weak ass table, but went through his leg or scratched him.
I'll do you one better. When he goes down, every single time I watch replays of that, it's the narrowness between his leg hitting the guardrail.
Yeah.
And if his leg is even a millimetre up, he probably shatters his whole leg.
Yeah. But either way, what I'm saying is, someone that's not going to be featured on WWE's greatest moments from 25 years ago or however long ago, if you're a fan, if you're a spectator, if you're a cameraman or anyone else that was around that ring, you're telling me you're not going to take WWE to court?
No,
Okay.
And I genuinely do feel like I'm being contrary for the sake of being contrary. But just hear me out here. If you're Mick Foley, Undertaker, Hell in a Cell, all this, right? You know they've got them on. You know for a fact they've got them on.
Well, at that time, certainly.
Yeah. First thing I want to do is I'm taking out the money aspect. Because WWE have this much, independent show doesn't. So I'm not trying to say that you have to sell everyone in that building, the ones involved, I mean, on this idea of, we're going to do this move, it's going to make you more money. But the idea is, if you're in WWE, you know you've got the money to start with. Whereas the whole point of, yes, we're going to get this company a bit of a buzz for the next 2 months. The next 2 months, getting this company a bit of a buzz might mean like a pay rise or might mean more money for everyone involved. Even like Mr. Plant in the crowd. If the next show he's on the card and they get a bump in attendance or a bump in figures, he's getting that money. That's the motivation for everyone.
Well, yeah, money is the
ultimate
motivator. But I don't think it drips down like that. I don't think for the Plant in the crowd that had to catch the man, bullshit. Well done, write that on your resume, write that on your CV, that you caught a man that was thrown carelessly into the crowd. Yes, you could, as a writer, you could give him an angle and you could say, it was me.
No.
He powerbombed him onto me. Look at me, I'm famous now.
Okay, no.
You could do that, but I don't think there's any money in that.
Yeah, no,
How long are you going to milk that career?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that becomes your gimmick. I'm saying that what you've just done, it goes against the whole idea of plants in the first place. Plants are there to enhance the angle in the first place. The angle is not about them. The angle is those two guys and that guy being powerbombed into the crowd. I'm saying, if you're in that crowd and you see that, I wouldn't turn around and go, like, this would suddenly be the biggest company in the world. But these guys, they're trying to, I don't know, the difference between, like, a 200 gate and a 300 gate is huge. I don't even know what the gates were, but you know, I'm just saying small percentages.
Yeah, for an indie show.
Small percentages mean a lot.
Yeah.
So, how do you create a buzz? And I'm not saying that, like, you create a buzz by any means necessary. I'm saying you do it in the, what's the word I'm looking for? The most controlled environment you can control, which is, and again, what I said before, variables. It's all about variables.
A controlled environment.
Yeah.
An empty stadium show, rocking mankind.
Jeez.
There's only 3 people there, man. How bad can it be?
But like you've got your fellas in the crowd and the 2 guys involved and the ref. If that's the way you want to do it, I'm not saying that like, and again, any member of the public is anywhere near that, and I think probably you're going to have to take some sort of residual risk of that, because even if you've got 6 guys in the crowd, there's probably going to be a guy either side, and someone has to nail the landing, which is too big of a risk, really. But if you're prepared to do that, and you can do it, I think there's a huge difference between that and some fella setting himself on fire, because at the very least, there's a big difference between trying to get a company over versus trying to get yourself over.
I think that was a nice place to wrap it up there, Stu. That was a solid argument. Either way, I think we can agree it was a stupid bloody thing to do.
Unnecessarily, perhaps.
It had its reasons. Yeah, but only the future will tell whether or not it was a beneficial thing to do. But what we don't want to see, and I think it's safe to say from both of us, we don't want to see it going any further than that.
No.
We don't want to see it. But it's how can we spice it up a bit more?
Yeah. We'll get someone to powerbomb them into the crowd, and there'll be no one catching them. It'll go straight onto the concrete.
Yeah. No, have the plants set their hair on fire as well. Hooray!
Gee. And then what you do after that is the guy who's being thrown is on fire as well.
Oh yeah, of course.
Everyone's
Why
on
not?
fire.
Keep on mixing it up.
Yeah.
Anything else? Enzo Amore's a great rapper.
No, I'm not even doing that. I'm gonna do the outro now.
Go on then.
I think if you're talking about people on fire, we've been on fire for a good well over half an hour now.
That'll do. That's enough.
Yeah, we've been on fire for plenty of time. We've been spitting fire. We've been talking about fire. We
set fires.
Maybe you have.
Sure.
I think that's a good way to end it. This has been Beyond the Beer Mat. We'll see you next time.
Episode 6.
7.
7.
We'll see you next time.
Peace.